welcome to everyone for this very special event. Just a couple of housekeeping rules before we start the event. There's a fire exit on your left-hand or on your right-hand side, and also on the left-hand side. So in the case of a fire, God forbid, then you'd exit out that door and that specific door, and then congregate outside the car park near the gates. That is where everyone will gather. If you're the ladies, the facilities are just past the first set of double doors, and there's a door on the left, and also some washrooms available near the coffee shop as well. So like I say, thank you for joining tonight. It's a good turnout, and I'd like to introduce you to Darius Sassini from the ACAA, who's the head of funding and partnerships.
You started.
Good evening, everyone, and a real pleasure to see so many of you here today, see so many new faces, and also friends of the Afghanistan and Central Asian Association. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview about the organizer of today's conference and who we are, for those of you who don't know much about the history and background of the charity. So the Afghanistan and Central Asian Association was founded 25 years ago, after my family came to the UK as refugees from Afghanistan to escape the Taliban. It was a very difficult journey across Europe, and then eventually we arrived in the southeast of London, which is where this charity was founded. And the main aim is to help refugees with integrating into UK life and society. So that involves a number of different things, which is why we offer different services for the community, including English classes for adults, to break down language barriers, Saturday school for children to help them with their school subjects, free legal advice on housing, immigration and family issues, women's empowerment, helping victims of domestic violence and running women's groups. Then we've got employment support, CV development, helping refugees with finding a job or with setting up a small business, because we've come across lots of people from a refugee background who've got different skills, different ideas. Some of them were running businesses back home in Afghanistan, but they don't know how to start a business from scratch in the UK, how to write a business plan, or even how to apply for a small loan, how to deal with all the legal paperwork, like signing the lease or finding a solicitor. So what we do is we offer one-to-one mentoring for those individuals who want to start their own businesses. And that's like part of the refugee entrepreneurship scheme. Then we've got mental health and counselling support. We also organise cultural events. So we held a 2-day summer festival at Gunnersbury Park in Ealing in June this year to mark Refugee Week. The first day was for the people of Afghanistan, and the second day was for Ukrainian refugees, and that was a real success, and we had over 5,000 people attending. And then there's also the sports activities that we run. So we've launched a girls football club funded by Comic Relief 3 years ago, a girls cricket club funded by Sport England, and other fitness programs for children and for the elderly. We've also started a digital education project for newly arrived girls from Afghanistan, which focuses on coding and on animation skills, so STEM education. And then conferences like the one we have here today. So that the aim behind that is policy and advocacy, and that's influencing government policy on Afghanistan. So we held a conference at the House of Lords. Last week on Monday, we had a conference in Brussels at the School of International Studies 6 weeks ago, and we have a conference here today. And so to engage policymakers, British politicians, think tanks, and other charities, so that we can come up with new policies for the UK government to implement. We became very busy after the fall of Afghanistan 2 years ago, when hundreds of people were contacting us every single day to get some advice from our staff about how to bring their families over. So it was a very busy time for the charity, and there were so many people queuing every day. And then we received lots of media coverage. So if you search the name of the charity on YouTube, you'll see hundreds of newspapers and media channels covering the post-crisis ACAA and the centre, where people are queuing from 6 AM in the morning. just so that they can evacuate some of their family members. We were liaising with the Ministry of Defence through their helplines, and then the media coverage as well. So I remember we were receiving calls every day from BBC, from ITV, from Channel 4, from Sky News, even from international newspapers like CNN, and they were contacting us to see if they could cover what was going on and to interview certain individuals whose families were still stuck in Afghanistan. And then we received lots of donations from the public. So we distributed a huge amount of donated goods and products from local residents in West London. And that was distributed across the whole of the UK to people living at the hotels. Because of the housing crisis, most of the asylum seekers are still being housed in temporary accommodation and in bridging hotels, although a small percentage of those people have been permanently rehoused. And then we opened our second office in Birmingham, which has been funded by Save the Children, who became one of our key partners after the fall of Afghanistan. And now we've opened our third branch office in Liverpool. So we don't just work in London, the operations of the charity are national. And I'm very pleased to say that we're now the largest Afghan-led charity in the UK by income and also by track record. And we've received numerous awards, like the Queen's Award for Voluntary Services. Dr. Nassimi is the first person from Afghanistan to receive the MBE this year. And we don't just support people from Afghanistan. We've got lots of beneficiaries from South America, from the Middle East, from Eastern Europe, from South America, and also from South Asia, who access our services. And we work closely with job centres, with GPs, and with local councils who refer people to us for help. 7 years ago, we moved from Lewisham to Hounslow. And the reason we expanded our work to West London is simply because the majority of our community live in West London. So in Hounslow, Hillingdon, Brent, Ealing, we've got over 150,000 people from Afghanistan. So it didn't really make sense for us to continue working from the southeast of London. And then we opened the first community centre for the people of Afghanistan in Feltham, and I'd like to invite everyone to please come and visit our centre and to see how we could potentially work together in partnership, in collaboration, to co-deliver programmes, maybe to apply for funding as a partnership application, but also to expand our work outside London in other parts of the UK. And then there's our work internationally, where we focus on humanitarian aid. So we opened 2 citizens advice centres in Kabul and Pulakhumri in the north, and they're modelled on the UK Citizens Advice Bureaus. And that was a huge success as well. For the first time, free legal advice was being provided to people on the ground on a range of different matters. And then we implemented a women's empowerment programme funded by the Canadian Embassy in Kabul. And then other programs around improving access to clean water, distributing oxygen machines during COVID to people back home. But for the last few years, we've had to stop formal operations in Afghanistan because of the return of the Taliban. So the new laws that have come into effect, the security challenges, but also because we haven't really been successful in terms of securing funds for our humanitarian work. So if there's anyone who works internationally on humanitarian aid delivery, then we're more than welcome to, you're more than welcome to work together with us, and hopefully we can do something inside Afghanistan as well. So yeah, I'm not going to take any more of your time. Thanks to the University of West London for hosting us here today, and hopefully we can hold more conferences at the Westmont Enterprise Hub. And yeah, thank you once again for attending, and I really hope that we can work together, in particular to support the women of Afghanistan, which is the key topic of today's conference, because there's lots and lots of women who face so many different challenges, and they are unable to integrate properly in the UK, and they face exclusion and isolation. And then you've got women inside Afghanistan who are being suppressed because of the Taliban, and their human rights and women's rights are being violated. So hopefully we as the diaspora, as the second generation of people from a heritage from Afghanistan, now living in the UK, we can come up with new policies and recommendations for the UK government as well, and we can offer a new solution, new policies for how we can make a difference to the lives of people back home. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope to see all of you again very soon.
And now I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Mohab Nasiri. Yes, just that.
I'm proud and pleased to be part of British society. Why I'm saying I feel very pleased to be part of British society, because Britain was the first country in the world promoting human rights and democracy through cultural revolution 1,000 years ago, then industrial revolution, then the equal opportunities available in the United Kingdom comparing to any other countries in the world. We have the Prime Minister from India, the Mayor of London from Pakistan, and hopefully in the next 50 years or 20 years maybe, we will have someone from Afghanistan to lead the United Kingdom. Darius, who was only 4 months old, and now he's 24 years old. He gives you enough information about the background, the history of the organization, and I feel that there is no need for me to repeat it. But at the same time, I would like to thank you, Stephen and Andy, for hosting this important event at the University of West London. And this is also, I feel, a great success, building partnership with an important university, which hopefully will create more opportunities for employment, for education, integration of the new arrived people from Afghanistan. As you can see, we are the most isolated, disadvantaged, excluded community in the world. We don't have a single voice or representation in the UK politics, in the EU, in any countries in the world. And we are the only people suffering because of the language barriers. The majority of refugees from Afghanistan, after 20 years, they are still struggling to communicate effectively. And that's why I founded this organization after 3 months of my arrival in the UK in 1999. Because I feel there is a strong need for a community provision to support others who are in a similar position that we were at the time. I didn't know how to enroll at the local college to study English language. I didn't know how to enroll my children to the local school. I didn't know how to search for a job, how to communicate with my neighbor, how to communicate with the job center, how to communicate with the local GP, how to access mainstream services. And that's why today, after 25 years, I feel very proud and pleased that we support thousands and thousands of people from different backgrounds, not only from Afghanistan, from different nationalities and different backgrounds. As Darius mentioned an important point about working in partnership, working in collaboration, and working together to support more and more and more people, because there are thousands of people arrived in the UK recently, in particular 210,000 refugees from Ukraine, and their experience is the same like us. The war started in Afghanistan, and the migration started from Afghanistan because of the Russian invasion in 1979. And now, the Ukrainian people, they are facing the same challenge and the same problems. And that's why I think that there is a great need. And the community and the people, they need us to work together and to do more in order to improve the quality of life and improve accessibility, improve participation, inclusion, and reduce exclusion among the new arrived community. Thank you very much for participating in this event. I hope that you will enjoy the rest of the conference today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to the University of West London and Westmount Enterprise Hub. Thank you, Dr. Nasimi, for those opening remarks, and Darius. As we can see, the Afghanistan and Central Asian Association has done considerable work since 1999 to help the integration of not only refugees, but primarily women and girls. As we can see, the majority of our audience are women and girls from refugee backgrounds who are here to tell their own stories. So I'm incredibly proud to host today's talk. I will swoop in straight into the discussion. The first panel hopefully will be focusing on Afghanistan and the women back home, and the second panel will focus on women in the UK. So good evening, thank you so much for taking the time and the interest to hear about the women of Afghanistan. Together, today we gather not just as a community, but a feminist force, united in our commitment to addressing the escalating challenges and injustices faced by the women in Afghanistan, both in the UK, but also back in the country. Our meeting here is not just a conference. I want it to be a call for action, understanding and solidarity in these troubling times. And as we sit in the heart of London and mark 16 days of activism, commemorating the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, which started this weekend, let us be reminded of the plight of the women of Afghanistan. As many of you know, in August 2021, the world witnessed a monumental shift in Afghanistan's history. Following NATO's withdrawal, the Taliban swiftly took control of the country, ending 2 decades of efforts to establish a democratic system. The takeover has had profound implications, reshaping not only the political landscape of Afghanistan, but also impacting the daily lives of women and girls. We have seen all across our headlines and the press, women and girls are banned from going to school, from going to university, from working, from having any role in society. It is the only country in the world where women are not treated as human beings. So we're honoured to have an array of distinguished speakers with us here today, each bringing a wealth of experience and insight into our discussions. I will, considering we're slightly delayed, it is a weekday, so a lot of our guests are here joining us after work, and we're incredibly grateful. But I'll start with the first panel, which will look at the realities of women in Afghanistan. We will delve deep into the current status of these women's lives, look at the basic human rights that they're deprived of, including education, the harsh truths of life following the fall of Kabul, and look at a panel of comprehensive views of challenges and victories for these resilient women. The second panel, which I'll introduce now, will be about women in refuge and in exile, and the role of the UK in empowering them to become independent, resilient, and pursue entrepreneurship in the UK. I'll now begin to introduce our three panelists for the first panel. We have Alia Farzan. She was born in 1996 in Afghanistan. She's a news presenter and producer at the BBC World Service, focusing on educational programs for women and girls in Afghanistan. Despite losing her father in a suicide attack and facing family resistance, she joined BBC in 2018 and has produced original stories. She has also been recognised as BBC's Inspiring Women in News list in 2023. We also have, we're honoured to have Binafsha Yaqoubi with us, who's a former Afghanistan Independent Human Rights Commissioner. She has dedicated her life to human rights activism and advocated for persons with disabilities. She has founded the organisation of Rahyab for retaliation services in Afghanistan in 2008, and with a PhD in political science, she received the 2022 Human Rights Watch Fellowship for Disability Rights Leadership. And finally, but not least, Shaira Karimi. She's a researcher and specialising in civil rights, conflict, extremism, nationalism, and focusing on Afghanistan and South Asia. Her influential work at the Tony Blair Institute includes OPEDs on Afghanistan civil society and Taliban rule. With experience working with the Afghanistan Embassy in London, she also holds a BA in Kingston University and is completing her Master's at Birkbeck University. Please let us welcome our first panel. Thank you all so much for being with us today. I'll start with giving each of you 3 minutes for opening remarks. Please feel free to talk about your own personal journeys, but also the topic of realities of women in Afghanistan. Please try to keep it short because there will be questions not only from me, but from the audience as well, and you can get into the topic much deeper as we go forward. But yes, I will start with Shaira Jan.
Thank you so much, Shabnam. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
We don't have mics, so try to speak a bit
Yeah.
louder.
I will try. So thank you so much. Actually, I'm really grateful to be here among such a lovely audience. Actually, so many beautiful faces, and also the panels that we have. And Dr. Nasimi, which I've heard a lot from and about. Thank you so much. I'm just going to, Shabnam said that we have only 3 minutes, so I'm just going to go quickly through the stuff that I wrote. I don't want to go into a free talk because I explained to her that I might become very emotional or go into all sorts of directions, so I'll just keep it very short and brief. So first things I wanted to say, and I wanted to thank you, first of all, for all your work and that you're doing in the UK and for Afghanistani community. And also I wanted to say that women activism in Afghanistan right now needs all the support we can get. Like all the support that we have and we can provide for them is vital at this moment because I will explain why. First of all, I say that I believe that the women rights activists in Afghanistan are real warriors. Those women are absolutely, sometimes I just think, how is it possible to go on street and face to face with these barbaric regime and the Taliban and, you know, and look into their eyes and demand your rights. It's an enormous bravery for me. And courage, of course, they are very courageous. And it's not easy for us, for example, for women living in the West, to be a woman. And living in Afghanistan is probably 3 or 4 times harder. So I salute these women who, even though the world and the Afghanistani leaders have betrayed them for the sake of their geopolitical agendas and economic gains, and left them on their own to fight an ethno-religious terrorist organization. Not only that, but also to fight against terrorism, radicalism, tribalism, and patriarchy. These women are making themselves visible and heard by fighting face to face with the Taliban and presenting their case to the world. And it's not easy. It's not easy to be in that situation and raise your voice amongst all of these men.
Risk your lives.
And risk your lives. And we know what happens to these women. So it's very hard. And absolutely, I salute them. And I respect them enormously. Afghanistani women are not only fighting for their rights, and let's not forget that one, they're fighting for the rights of their children, their families, the LGBT community, and the women across the region. And they're fighting against and their fight is actually the backbone of the resistance against the Taliban and the oppressive apartheid regime. So unfortunately, the world is ignoring women's rights and the problems in Afghanistan because according to some of these politicians and some of these leaders, these are our problems. These are the Afghanistani people's problem because they consider it as part of our culture and as part of our religion, which is completely ignorant of them, I think. Unfortunately, these people are neglecting the fact that the Taliban, their culture, and the interpretation of religion is not the representatives of the people and not similar to the religious practices of the various cultures and identities and ethnic groups or communities across the country. They're also trying to enforce the idea of emirate and the terrorist organization by using various means, groups, organizations, and individuals to lobby, defend, and whitewash the atrocities of this terrorist organization and enforce it on the people of Afghanistan and make them accept them as the leaders. And the idea is that they present them as locals, modified as Taliban 0.2, a desired, wanted, and accepted by a vast majority of people in the country. So despite the initial promises that were seen by the Taliban during the Doha peace talk, the women could be allowed to exercise their rights within Sharia law, including the right to work and study. The Taliban, on the other hand, they embarked on a campaign systematically excluding women and girls from public life, creating a gender apartheid system. Women and girls are precisely being targeted only because of their gender. And for that reason, the deprivation of their fundamental rights, including the rights of movement, which is very important and something that we all take for granted. It's very hard for a woman to move from one side of the country to another side of the country. The Taliban has, I'm just going to go right back. The Taliban has issued over 100 edicts and orders in line with the extreme and tribal interpretation of Islamic Sharia law. And about 56 or 60 of them are for women. And the Taliban are trying to silence and erase women from the public life and from Afghanistan society, forgetting the fact that women's existence, women's voices, and participation are key and vital to a sustainable peace and political settlement in Afghanistan. The future of Afghanistan should be female. I believe in that, and should every woman, every feminist should believe in this, that if you're believing in equality, liberty, and empowerment, you should do that, back home. And I'm just gonna say a quote by Audre Lorde, which I adore, and who was fighting for equality, liberty, and women's rights around the globe, unless some feminists, today's feminists, she said that I'm not free, while any woman is unfree, even when her shackles are very different from my own.
Thank you, Shaila John. I'll move on to Olia John. Yes, please.
Thank you, and good evening to everyone. And I have to thank you,
Shaila John.
and also Nassim Isfat for organizing this great session to talk about what we can do for those women who are back in Afghanistan. So, as it was in the introduction, I've just come from the country, and I'm hearing from Afghan women all day that what they are going through. Their main problem is not Taliban. They're dealing with different type of difficulties in the country, from economy, society, to let's take Taliban and lots of other things. So what we can do here, we cannot just talk. I have seen lots of sessions, lots of conferences that they just talk and condemn the Taliban for what they are doing there. But that's not enough. We have to take action. What we can do from here. If we can do from here, what we can, we can ask other organizations, or maybe we can ask the government to take action and do something effective. So there, I know that Taliban have issues. So many people respect the Taliban, but the main issue is maybe the people, the society. When the Taliban took the country in 2021, no men stood against Taliban. They banned schools, they banned universities, they banned everywhere. Women were on the street protesting against Taliban, but there wasn't any man beside them. Why is it? They didn't. Because deep down their heart, they were agreed with Taliban. Why would they risk their life for such things? Women are born to be at home, to marry, and to raise children. Why they should risk their life to protest beside women against Taliban? It's very dangerous. You don't have to do it, because what these women are doing, it's nonsense. It's useless. This is the main problem here, and it's very, very difficult to solve. Maybe you can change a government, but you can't change people's mentality. You can't change people's mindset. If we take serious actions right now, maybe we will be able to solve it in generations, not in years, not in months, not in days, in generations. We have to work through generations, and we don't have to step away, and we don't have to give up too easily. I think for now it's okay. So
Thank you so much. Thank you. And Vanessa John, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Dr. Nassimi, and thanks for all colleagues who are here and who doing a lot for Afghanistan and for all nations who are going inside the, crisis and conflicts. Situation of women in Afghanistan is somehow clear for lots of you who are sitting here and listening to us. I'm gonna say, so we just take a minute and think very deep. We need to think a bit deeply about things which are going with Afghan girls and women. You think I'm gonna tell you as an example the story of one Afghan girl. Her name is Fatima. So Fatima was 17 years old in 2021, and Fatima has 4 sisters and 3 brothers. they are living in one poor area of Kabul city. And her father is working on the street. He's selling something to provide his family food. And two of their brothers are working, one is studying. And that time on now, as if the 2021. Fatima is going to school. She was a very smart girl. She had a good mark in all of her school's grade. She was at 11th grade. You know, the children who are 17, most of them are mostly they are at 11th grade. So Fatima's love are beneficial in Russia. While the collapse happened, the family and after they banned the education for all girls and women, and lots of restriction, limitation. The economic situation was damaged, so their father couldn't go to work and couldn't provide enough food for all of the family. So their family thought that would be better if we get married. Our daughters are girls, because so why should we keep them? Because they can't go to school, they are not able to go to university. So let's stay at home. Let's try to get them married with somebody. Unfortunately, someone came, a man who was maybe 68 years old. And maybe it's unbelievable for you guys, but I am witness of this bad and bitter story. And they married that girl with that man very easily. We tried a lot to speak with them and tell them that's really bad. That's so dangerous. And do you know what they said? They said to me, they said, she's a person with vision impairment, total vision impairment. She's a girl. We have two others like her. She cannot go to school. There's no future for her. There's no bright future for her. What should we do? We cannot feed them. That's difficult. After this, it was forced marriage for that girl. So that happened. But the most bitter and the more tough point was that after 1 year, the man who was her husband killed because he was from a Taliban movement. I don't know who killed him. But now, Fatima is with a small baby, young baby. Now, he's not even 20 years old. But she's not even 20 years old. But she has a baby, and unfortunately, she doesn't have the hopes, the dreams which she had before. She wanted to be a very good journalist. And unfortunately, even today, I spoke with her, but very much, what's our response to her? There is not one Fatima. We have millions of Fatima in Afghanistan. What will be our response? What's the international society response to him? What's our politician response to him? So, as Arya said, we need to take action. We need to think, what can we do? From where can we start? And then we need to start. This is not time for lots of speaking. We don't have a lot of time for lots of events. I'm grateful for this event because it's the start for me for doing some very useful things. But we need to take an action. We need to think, even if we can do like a drop of water, that will be a lot for Afghan women, practically for those who are inside the country.
So much for those insightful comments. I do absolutely agree that rather than have events like these on an ongoing basis, we need to have a call for action, which is exactly what we're planning to do. We have our team members here taking notes of this discussion, and we will be preparing a policy briefing that will be shared with international organisations and other stakeholders to make sure that the conversation continues. Unfortunately, there is very little we can do unless there is global solidarity with our cause. So we have to keep talking about this. And it is tiresome, but this is why you guys play such a big role. So I'll come back to you, Shailajan. You know what? We spoke about this earlier about reading from your notes, but you speak so wonderfully when it comes naturally from the heart. So just really talk about, in the context of women's rights, in the country, and the concept of democracy, of women's empowerment, of political participation. How is this understood in the country? How do people feel about women's rights inside Afghanistan? Because as we hear quite a lot in the media, unfortunately, since August 2021, people think that the Taliban came because the people of Afghanistan wanted this kind of regime. So what is it that the women of Afghanistan want? What kind of future they want? And why is there a Taliban government today?
Well, thank you so much. It would have been easier for me to go through my notes because if I start talking, I might go. It's not an easy topic to finish in 5-10 minutes or something. There's a lot to cover actually, and I don't want to jump into as we discussed the other day when we spoke, I don't want to jump into the bandwagon where the monotone speaking about the women's rights of, that.
So tell me, what is it the women of Afghanistan want?
Well, I think one of the biggest problems that we have right now is it's not only about the education. It's not only about them going to work. It's about the entire system. It's not if your government doesn't respect your rights, if your government doesn't give you the basic human rights that it's the job of the state actually to provide, to maintain and sustain not only the females, everyone, and all the citizens, regardless of their gender, regardless of their ethnic group, and regardless of their nationality, whatever they are. Like, for example, in the UK. And one of the problems that I started researching about Afghanistan after the fall of the country. Before that, like everyone else, I thought that, actually the Taliban, they are Afghans, which is one of the problems that we have right now in Afghanistan, is that, and with the international communities, it's not only even within the country, but it's outside the country, they're thinking that the Taliban are Afghans, so the rest of us is Afghans, so why they're not accepting this government, which is one of them? And this is one of the biggest problems, and we have to, and every single event that I am attending, either be with FCDO, either be with international organizations, politicians, anybody, we have to sit down for 15 minutes, explain to them what the term Afghan means. Why the term Afghan means Pashtun, and what is Pashtun? What's the difference between Pashtun culture and the Tajik culture and the Hazara culture, and why is not acceptable for the whole society to accept what the Taliban are doing in Afghanistan? And one of the and when you look at this, from this perspective, then you understand what's the problem with the Afghan rights in Afghanistan. One of the problems with the Taliban is that people are not mentioning this, especially their lobbyists and their supporters, the Pashtuns, unfortunately, our own Pashtun communities, that the Taliban are ethno-religious, nationalist, terrorist organization. It's a very long word, but this is how you define them. They are a group and an organization that are supporting a specific school of religion, which is Deobandism. They are supporting and are fighting for a specific ethnic group, which is Pashtunism, and they are also a Pashtun nationalism. And they are a terrorist organization. They are using force, violence, coercion, all of that to intimidate the people of Afghanistan. And basically, they're living in fear. They cannot go outside. The woman we've seen, like for example, last week, I think we tweeted about it, like a 5 Tajik woman, they were imprisoned by the Taliban. So the idea, why, you were just thinking, why the Tajik women are fighting for their rights? Why we don't see many Pashtun women, and we see the Pashtun women as women rights celebrities, rather than going on the streets and fighting. What is happening, And this is because this is not in our culture. The Uzbeks, Tajiks, Hazaras, this is what they're calling democracy. This is what they're calling, the Taliban calling the democratic values or foreign values. This is not actually foreign to our culture. If you look at the Persian world and if you look at the Tajik culture, we do have the tendencies of human rights and democracy and all of that within it. So it's very hard. For example, I'll tell you from my for my own family, I'm coming from a Tajik background, and except my two grandmothers who are, God bless them, not dead now, but you know, they have attended school until they are 6. And the rest of the female members in my family, and I'm not lying this, and all of these people who come from Afghanistan, and they know this, that most of the people, the Tajiks and Hazaras and the Uzbeks, their family members, they are forced to go to school. Actually, if you escape school, you will be in trouble. You know, if you say, I'm not going to go to school, I'm going to get married. There's no father that says, you're going to get married by this age until they say, you have to finish your school and university, and then you have to get married. This is how it works in our family. And my aunties, I have 4 aunties. All of them have university degrees. My mother, she studied in Russia. And the rest of my family members, my cousins and all of them back home or here, all of them are educated. And it's really hard to explain this to the Western policymakers that, listen, I mean, you know, don't force us to accept this culture and identity. Not everyone in Afghanistan, and this is like, we all have to have this and work with this mentality and idea that not everyone in Afghanistan is Afghan. I'm sorry. I don't believe in this. The day I found out that I'm not Afghan, I stopped crying. Honestly, I was sitting in a corner and I felt so betrayed. I felt so angry, and I felt so that they are imposing another identity, another ethnic group. Pashtun means, Afghan means Pashtun, and they're imposing it on us, on the Tajiks, on Uzbeks, on Hazaras, to accept this identity because they wanted to bring this group, you know, that is, as I said, that the Western politicians have betrayed us, our leaders betrayed us.
We'll come back to that. I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions from the audience about what you've just mentioned. This is, for a lot of people, this is new information. People don't understand the intricacies of the society in Afghanistan and the culture and the history. So we'll come back to you very quickly. I will move on to Alia Jan. Considering your experience at the BBC and the nature of your program, I think you've recently started a new program called DAS after the fall of Kabul. How effective do you think the media and educational programs are in supporting women in Afghanistan, but also those in rural areas?
Media are actually playing a big role, but only in cities. We are seeing this. No one is watching this on rural areas because they don't have TV, they don't have electricity, they don't have internet, or some of them, because we are running this show on radio as well, some of them have got radio, but fathers are listening to the radio, not daughters or the girls. So these kind of programs are very effective. If people have got internet, if they have TVs, if they have enough electricity, if they have maybe at least radio, or they can read, or they can watch, or they have the permission to use that tool, you know, or the device. It would be effective, but most of the people are living in rural areas. In Afghanistan, I think 75 or more than 75% of people are living in rural areas, that they do not have access to any kind of device. So how can we serve those people? We cannot play radio there, we cannot provide them maybe educational materials. Nowadays, lots of organizations are running online courses for Afghan children, but no one is taking those courses because they don't have access to it. We keep in touch with people, we ask them, do you ever listen or watch that? They say, how can? During the day, we don't have electricity. If we have electricity, my father will come and watch news.
So in your opinion, how can we educate the women and girls in Afghanistan whilst this ban on their education is still ongoing by the Taliban? What can we do? What can the international community do?
So there are lots of other restrictions in the country. We have got too many complaints about that they are not allowed to watch that. You know, we go all around that traditional society. The problem is with the people, with the families, with our gentlemen friends, but with the male member of the families. The problem is there. So in my opinion, okay, we can serve the cities. The girls who are living in the cities, they have got the luxury to use mobile phones, they have got the luxury to watch TV. But for those girls who are living in rural areas, we have to have, I don't know how much is it possible right now, but we have to have physical classes. And we have to hire people to go there at first, talk to their parents, educate their parents, and then go and educate the daughters or the children. We can't just say that the girls are not allowed to go to school. In most of the places, even boys are not allowed to go to school. Because parents believe that why I should send my son to the school rather than like working, sending him to somewhere that will go to work and earn some money or provide some food to the family. And this is our problem.
Thank you, Alijan. I'll swiftly move on to Banafsha John. Let's be realistic here. Afghanistan has faced 43 years of war, and unfortunately that has created a society with many different disabilities that, from my opinion, we don't talk enough when it comes to Afghanistan. We talk about the ordinary men and women, but when it comes to the disabled women and girls in Afghanistan, there is very little coverage. So I'd like to hear a little bit from you, Banafsha John, about what sort of disabilities are currently experienced by women and girls inside Afghanistan, and what sort of support they need, and what we can actually do, practical steps that we can take to help these girls.
Thanks so much. Sophie, let me I will go to your question very briefly, and I will go to the women rights discussion as well. Because so in case of disability, as we have the Asia Foundation survey, which was it happened in 2019, 13.9% of all population of Afghanistan are living with severe disability, at least one type of disability, which is severe. But the thing which I am witness of that, this is not the real data, because even on that time, because of the security challenges, because of the, in lots of areas that was with the Taliban, the Asia Foundation organization couldn't go there, if you are aware of it. And so even this survey is less than the real, population of people with disabilities in the country. So we don't have any real statistic of different types of disability, and we don't know how many women and how many men we have with disability in Afghanistan, and which type is more and which type is less. Because sometimes we are seeing people with physical impairments on the streets and somewhere, hearing impairment, vision impairment, but unfortunately we are not doing anything for intellectual or learning disability at all. But we need to, if we want to support them, so they don't have access to any of their human rights, even fundamental human rights, like all women in Afghanistan, their health rights, education, all rights. What can I tell you? From 0 to 100. But in case of women, because I had a research which I started in 2020, and it was my thesis, my doctoral thesis in one university in India. So my bio was just, paper was just 2 months ago, and I finished and wrote that PhD. That was regarding the impact of democratic governance on women political rights in Afghanistan from 2001 to 2021. Why I came to that? Because, as you said, in Afghanistan we have diverse of cultures, diverse of, women, even a diverse of female cultures inside the country. South, north, east, and west are different. So, in Afghanistan, as I studied, and I know, my research told me that even in those years, which we had very good legal documents, very good law, supportive law, but unfortunately, still there were lots of problems and challenges in front of women. But now, but beside that, if I compare that 20 years with before, some years before that, if we go to Mujahideen period and then the Taliban's first period, and now there's the Taliban's second period, we can say that that 20 years was a golden year for Afghan women, because we had our contribution in parliament, in the Shran Jirga, in different leadership of different places of Afghanistan, political place, and then we had good access to education, even in that time because of the patriarchal society and because of the, unfortunately, wrong culture, which is kind of they're telling us this is your culture, although this is not our culture. It's kind of compulsory thing, but we had lots of challenges. I will share with you later. Just in case of the situation is more violent than all.
Thank you so much, Shahjan. Thank you to all three panelists. I'm now going to go to the floor because I don't want to take too much time asking them my questions. I'm sure they've got a lot more to say. But if there are people in the audience who want to ask questions directly to our panelists, now's the time. We've got a brief period, but please do raise your hands and I will try to take as many as I can. Yes, we'll start with yourself.
Sorry, when I came here, I feel very upset about one message on Beta Joe. I want to show you just for 2 minutes. Wait for me, please.
This is a message.
So beautiful, girl. You understand?
Yes.
Sorry, the inspiration. But sorry, you are getting here from far away, wasting time, and then talking. What is the outcome of this event? You are doing everything by association, by Shabnam, by Basimi. What is in daily activity our life? The girls who is no married singer, what is their role in the everyday life? Sorry.
You can just ask the question.
No
We haven't
no
got
question.
enough time.
Before, no, you have to.
We don't have enough
No,
time. We've got
1 minute.
another panel. So if you could just ask one question.
Good, one
Please.
question.
Yes, please.
I have to talk some things if you like, but I will stop. Just.
Could we do that towards the end?
Well,
You can see
okay.
all your
No,
points
just
towards
my
the end.
question.
Yes,
My
please,
question. The Olya John and Shaida and doctor tell everything, but I no agree what you tell about everything, but I have my idea. When I work in army, you have during Dr. Najibullah two general ladies from Air Forces. Chief Staff Army General Asif Dilawar. Somebody knows here, him. Wanted to improve me the higher position, the ladies, two ladies, one of them. One is come and talk against another. When the 20 years the leader of Afghanistan, commander, minister, presidents make very worse corruption, bad things, why the ladies, their wife is no against them, no separate, no divorce? And I'm talking your question. Why the ladies today is active? Because Taliban annoying, sending the jail, the ladies, brutally, but no killing. If man stay behind the ladies, they are even shooting. And I'm coming on another my question. I'm reading from that my phone because I make in the way this question and just look this. The navigating the path of the empowerment of ladies, this good evening and good subject. But my question is that inside the UK and when superpower Western countries, there are issues that are acceptable about ladies. But My question is why? Why are the superpowered countries like UK and United States, America, all the time helping the groups and organizations which are against human rights? Their employees and their employment, even their education. I don't understand during the jihad time and now during the dark Taliban rules why and why. The very bad and fundamentalists, the extremists, even terrorist groups have international support. Why is that? Why is that? This is my question.
We'll get that question to
No,
the
this
audience.
question I asking
Yes.
the
I'll ask them.
yes, and then I have some idea about ladies' situation.
Towards the end, I'll ask
Okay,
the audience
thank
to
you.
give me
This
some
is-
ideas.
yes,
Is that okay?
some ideas.
We'll
Yeah,
hear from you towards the end.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me take another question as well. Yes, go ahead.
My question is from Elias. You correctly mentioned that women in Afghanistan have no rights to live like normal, and no man protests against these violences. And my question is, why do you think that no man stands beside the women and against the violences like that? Why?
It's kind of similar to what the gentleman mentioned about men and
Yeah.
why they don't stand with the women. So I think the question's directly towards you. I'll let you answer that.
It's very complicated.
Mm-hmm.
At first, Afghanistan has a very traditional culture with traditional mindset. So it's all about the mindset that has been there for centuries and centuries. My mother is more than 60 years old. She's not educated. She tell us about her own story that at the time everyone was very excited about school. They with some of her girlfriend, they get together and went there and enrolled themselves in school.
Mhm.
Then what happened? Her father and other uncles came together and got them out of school. At the time, there was no Talib, no Mujahideen, there wasn't war, everything was fine. My mother said it was the most peaceful years of her life. At that time, she couldn't go to school. Why? The traditional mindset. People do not like women to go out, to get educated, to be independent, to be in the society, because the patriarchal mindset does not accept it. Why women? Why not men? So when the Taliban came, I don't want to support Taliban. I'm not supporting Taliban at all. I don't want to whitewash them. But it was the people that they were happy about it. Shaira just mentioned about that Pashtuns are supporting Taliban, but that's not true. Tajiks are supporting Taliban. Uzbeks are too. Azaras are too. In my side of the country, I'm coming from the north of the country. Majority of them are Tajiks with Uzbeks. We have the most extremist Taliban in the north. They're all Tajiks and Uzbeks.
Really?
Yeah. They are, I don't want to exaggerate, but they're the rudest people that I have ever seen this. I was there when Takhar, north of the country, fell into Taliban. It was terrible. They didn't look like, sorry, I'm not telling this, but they didn't look like human. They were all our Tajiks.
But they speak Pashto.
They don't speak Pashto, they speak Farsi.
Never seen.
You have never seen it, but I was there.
Most of them
And
they
I
speak
was-
Pashto. They don't speak Farsi.
If we can go back, I think she's got another question.
Can I ask another question?
Can I add
So-
just one
Yes.
small point?
Yes, go ahead.
Ashana? So, just, sorry, I'm academic person, I'm not able to speak this. I have to go to some resources, Shabnam. If I'm wrong, you can tell me not to go there. I'm just trying to tell you something which I received from my questionnaires, interviews, and my, real data with my literature review and things like that. One thing which was missing in these 20 years, and why the men couldn't stand beside women a lot, and why they didn't support us as much as we need and as much as we expected. I'm not gonna say no man supported women. I don't want to say like that, because there's lots of men who are supporting women even inside the country, but they have to be somehow in high, and they can't come in just in front. But one thing was missing, guys. Just please think about it. How can we work for women's rights if we are not including men in the topic? We have lots of trainings, lots of, workshops, lots of things we did in the last 20 years, but we didn't include men while we wanted to speak regarding women's rights. We didn't include people without disability while we wanted to work with disabled people. We just wanted to work for them. Oh, this is the workshop for women. Oh, you are a woman. Okay, that's all. You're eligible. Go there, go there. No, you are man. You cannot. You cannot. Unfortunately, this was while we are working for rural area, while we are sitting at the city and making decisions for rural area people.
Yeah, that's the point.
That's the main point that we missed.
I'll take another question from the audience as well before we move on. Is there anyone else that has a question to our panelists? Please try to keep it specifically on women's rights and not the wider issues. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, very, very good talk. I'm trying to keep it on women's, but yet again, the situation in Afghanistan, as much as I'm aware, is it the same for, like, say, the Tajik women in North or the Pasha? How would you, because I know you need to bring ethnicities to it, and it's like you can't see the justice and like different tribes in Afghanistan. Women, we're talking about women, Shabnam, but is it the rights are the same? The situation for like Persians, Tajik minority in the North, how is it? I'd like to hear.
Yes, you had a question as well. Yes, did you have a question?
No.
No, you don't. Okay. No worries. I'll come to you. I'll come to you with that question. What I want to really make note here is that first of all, I don't want to make this a political conversation. This is about human rights. Ethnicity, unfortunately, has been politicized in Afghanistan for a very long time. And when it comes to the Taliban and their regime, they have, of course, engaged other ethnic groups to ensure sustainability of their governance in Afghanistan. They plan to be in power for the next 5, 10 years. And in order for that to continue, unfortunately, other vulnerable groups will be targeted and radicalized as well. But we do know from history and from Afghanistan's unfortunate track record that the Taliban group itself is predominantly from a Pashtun ethnic group, and their capital is Kandahar. So let's just clarify that first. But I understand what Alia John is also saying, that our people, especially men, whatever ethnic group they're from, unfortunately they are very patriarchal. It's the men from different households across Afghanistan that are restricting women from studying, from working, and that is the point that I think she was trying to make. But I'll come to you, Shola John. Let's try to keep it on women's rights and focus on what we can do to support them. I think the question there was around different provinces across the country. Is the picture the same around access to education, access to work?
Unfortunately, I have to say that it is political, even though it's a human right. It's a woman's situation has become politicized as well. And I need to emphasize the fact that for the past 20 years in Afghanistan, there were politicians inside the government. We had academics outside the government. In the West, we had journalists, we had politicians in the West who were supporting and lobbying for the Taliban regime. That's why it was so easy for them to come to power. And how does it happen? I don't want to go into the terms like nationalism and explain here, we're not in university, all of that. But they started their assimilation program from not from top down like traditional nationalism theory suggests, but from bottom up. And that happened because of the rural areas that you're mentioning, that 75%, yes, they are who are living in rural areas, or you're mentioning that they don't have access to education, to employment and women's rights, etc., etc. But let's keep in mind that for the past 20 years, the Taliban started their insurgency from 2004 or 6 onwards. And they have kept all, slowly, they have kept each province, each sub-province and all of these rural areas under their control for the past 20 years. And by 2018, we had 60% of the country at the hand of the Taliban. So if they are fighting and they are claiming that the women's rights and the education, and we are like freeing the rural woman because the urbans, they were neglecting them, or the feminists, they were neglecting the rural area women, and they were not having access to resources, to education, and this and that. That's because the lobbies are trying to portray them as local. They have given them a village identity to be similar to the identities of the rural people, because the urban cities and the urban lifestyle has changed throughout these 20 years, and then it has evolved. And according to so many researchers, because we had so much like corruption in the country, and even the women rights activists, they couldn't access and had no access to the rural areas due to security reasons, to the personal issues, or because of the lack of the resources and because of the corruption. They were just having projects and not fulfilling their job properly or accordingly. And so let's not forget about the fact that for the past 20 years, the rural areas, the Taliban would keep telling them, oh look, the government is corrupt. International communities are neglecting you. I don't know, the Western are trying to promote democracy, women's rights, and feminism, and this and that. So let's not also forget the fact that Afghanistan is a war-torn country. We have war like 40 years, and most of the people are uneducated. And of course, it's going to be hard for a man to accept the fact that they have like a Talib sitting there, controlling the area, and then allowing their girl to go to education or take education, or to become a woman rights activist, or this and that. It's hard, and I cannot agree the fact that Afghanistan is a patriarchal society. But at the same time, let's not forget about the fact that what the Taliban or their lobbyists or their supporters are trying to portray to us or to the West is actually not true. And I'm not saying this because I'm against the Taliban. Of course, I am against the Taliban, but I'm also against the Western policies. They have failed us dramatically.
Thank you. I think there's just one more question from. Yes, do you want to quickly, really keep it short, and I think we're going to wrap up after this one. Yes, go ahead.
You mentioned the challenges perfectly, but what can we do to start counting the women right as human right? I am not Afghan, I'm Iranian. How can I be helpful to do that, to help women in Afghanistan? And can I have one suggestion from each speaker? Thank you.
I was going to say that. So one sentence, or probably even just 3 or 4 words, really short. I'll start with Belam Shagan first, and we'll come back. What can someone who's not from Afghanistan, what can they do? Really keep it brief.
Support us in your demonstration. Remind us. Just bear in mind that situation for Afghanistan is worse than Iran.
Thank you. Yes.
I was about to say this. The same as it happened in Iran. When Mahsa was killed, everyone stood beside him. Everyone stood against the government. But when Afghan women were deprived, only women stood. So we have to get together, and no matter it's the women's right or men's right, we have to stay together. That's what we can stop.
Thank you.
Yes. So first thing first, let's start with the thing that let's recognize the women as who they are, and that not every single woman, as I again emphasize on this a lot, and this is how it works. Not everyone in Afghanistan is Afghan. Let's remember that first, and then we can provide them with their own rights and stand for their rights. And regardless of what men doing or not doing, let's consider that the women of Afghanistan have their own identity. Each community, each ethnic group, and each woman has their own identity and their own culture and their own voice. So let's keep that in mind, and I think that would help a lot.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Let's give it. For your time. I do hope that your contributions will be taken into account today, and we want to be able to keep you involved as much as we can. But thank you again for coming and thank you for offering your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's 2 seats. We've got very limited time and we've got some food coming towards the end. I'm sure many of you are waiting for that. But I'll quickly move on to our second panel that will look at the women of Afghanistan in refuge and in exile and what role the UK can play in empowering them and supporting them. We have with us Esther Raphael, who serves as the Policy Communications Coordinator at IMEX. Her expertise is in political advocacy, human rights campaigning and community organising. Part of her noteworthy contributions involve media and communication strategies for campaigns aimed at supporting women and girls from Afghanistan. And we also have with us Diana Nami, a Kurdish and British activist who has been a political human rights campaigner under different regimes and spent 12 years as a Kurdish freedom fighter. She founded the Iranian and Kurdish women's rights organization, ICRO, in 2002 that has been advocating for women and girls from Middle Eastern and North African communities against abuses like forced marriage and domestic violence. So thank you so much for being with us. Do you want to Yes, come up. There we go. Perfect. I'll start with just giving you about 3 minutes to talk about your work and who you are and how you came about to supporting women from Afghanistan.
Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here tonight, and thank you for inviting me. Sorry. Yeah, okay. Thank you, everyone, it's a pleasure to be here tonight, and thank you for inviting me to be here. When I come to the UK, like yourself, Doctor, I couldn't speak a word of English. So I have been provided an interpreter in Kurdish to help me to enroll my daughter at school. She came with us in 2 occasions to school. In the 3rd occasion, she didn't turn up. So it was a question for me, what happened to her? When I went home, I called her office and I asked about her. They told me that she is dead. And I was very upset because she was very young, very energetic, no any sign of any illness. So the only thing I was thinking at that time was actually a road accident or something in London, which I asked them. They told me no, it wasn't the case. But her husband took her back to Iraq, to Kurdistan, and he killed her there with the help of her brother-in-laws. And the reason was that her husband, suspecting that she is flirting with one of her colleagues. I was very upset with the issue because I knew that honor killing happening in Iran, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, but it was the last thing to accept that happened in the UK. Because in my opinion, women's rights and human rights was highly implemented, respected, so things like that shouldn't at all happen. I called police and told the story that I'm telling you tonight. And police response was more shocking. They told me, honor killing is your culture, we have to respect that. Otherwise you will call us racist. So I thought it's something seriously wrong. I established the Iranian and Kurdish Women's Rights Organization to tackle the issue of honor killing, tackle the issue of your culture, we have to respect that. In my opinion, honor killing was not and it is not a culture. It is a crime and should be considered as such. And since then, the organization, I set it up in 2002. We have been it was lots of struggle for us. From community, they say we have to keep silence about this issue, not to talk about that, because racists will use it against our community. So many of them, they threatened to kill me. We had backlashes from women's rights organization. They told us we have to keep silence, otherwise, again, our communities will be ashamed and racists will take advantage of that. We took backlashes from government and police and social services. They told us this is the culture, this is the political correctness, we have to respect that, and otherwise you call us racist. And in my opinion, all of them were wrong. And we told them the racist is when you are not supporting a woman from minority community when she seeks help from you. And since then, we have made lots of changes. At the beginning, our organization was only for Iranian and Kurdish because it was the only language I could speak, and my friends. Then later on, we found out that the problem, it is within Arab community, within Turkish community, within Afghan community, and we expanded our services. Now Afghan women are part of the community that we are supporting and we are helping. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Esther. I guess I come from quite a different space, and I'm coming at this from a very different angle to all of the incredible people that have spoken tonight, and I'm incredibly honoured to have been included on this panel because I'm not someone that speaks from lived experience of these situations. I speak as someone who's thinking strategically and politically about the UK's media environment and communication. So as Shabnam very kindly just said, I work for an organisation called IMEX. What IMEX does is we think about and we aim to shift the national conversation in the UK around refugees and migration to a more positive and compassionate place. So when I'm thinking about this question of Afghan women and girls, I'm thinking about it from the perspective of how is this issue portrayed in the media, and how can we make sure that the conversation in the media aids human rights and women's rights for Afghan women and girls. So it's quite a kind of different perspective, and I'm really honoured to have been included to think about it with everyone tonight. Yeah, I'm not going to try and speak to I'm not an expert on the subject matter itself, but I can help think through the solutions. Exactly. And I guess the thing that has really kind of, I prepared some thoughts and remarks, but actually the thing that's kind of come to mind that I just sort of scrolled it down on a piece of paper was that we think a lot at IMEX about messaging and language. So what cuts through to the average person in the UK when they want to understand what it means to be an Afghan woman, or they want to understand what it means to come to this country, try and make a new life for yourself, to have a big family, to try and resettle them, to try and make that work. How do we explain that to the average person? And so much of the work that IMEX has been lucky enough to do with incredible women and incredible Afghan women has really shown me that, Afghan women are powerful and persuasive and really unifying messengers when it comes to thinking about refugee issues, and what I would say is actually a really divisive and fearful media landscape that we're in the United Kingdom at the moment. It's a very divided, very polarised landscape, and I would just have to say that I think this issue actually has incredible power in unifying and redirecting the conversation to a more compassionate place. So yeah, I think it's kind of this, there's this contradictory truth, I would say, about this issue, which is that Afghan women's experiences are severe and they're specific, but also kind of, as my fellow panelists have said, they're actually universal issues as well, right? So I had a couple of conversations to prepare for this panel, one with incredible activists that I think some of you guys will know, journalist Zara Shahir, and another with another incredible Afghan woman called Sabah Khalil. And Zara explained to me, for example, that, without family reunion resettlement, she wouldn't be able to bring her mum to the UK, and without childcare, she can't continue her career as a journalist. And so if we tell people her story and they hear it, that can change everything. So I think, our current media environment, as I said, is incredibly divisive and harsh. And what supersedes this are authentic stories and powerful stories. And so many of those stories have been told tonight by incredible people. And I guess to give some kind of practical advice or kind of explain a little bit about what we do.
Let me come to the practical steps
Yeah.
and things, solution-based stuff that you just already started next, because I've
Sure.
got a question for you already, but the intro was amazing. Thank you so much. But I know you want to really quickly deep dive into what we can do and what the actionable steps are. But I'll come to you on that quickly quite soon. Diana, given your wealth of experience of working to support women and girls in the UK, particularly of ethnic minority backgrounds, what steps do you think can we take? Not when I say we, I mean organisations like the Afghanistan Central Asian Association, ICRO, but also institutions, educational institutions, other NGOs, government agencies. What steps do you think should be taken to empower these women and encourage entrepreneurship, financial independence? Because as you know, a lot of the challenges around domestic abuse, honor killings, and many other challenges is based on the fact that these women are not financially independent and able to look after themselves. And when we come to the story of Afghan women, who have recently resettled and come to the UK, they're building new lives, but they have skills, they have crafts. How can we support and empower them to begin that process in the UK?
Great questions. First of all, I have to salute all those women that on the daily basis really are fighting against the most brutal regime, Taliban, in the street of Kabul and other cities in Afghanistan. When they are coming to the UK, like many of other refugees and asylum seekers like myself, we have got lots of problems in our countries. First of all, we don't know what is our rights and entitlement in the UK. I was educated in Iran, I could study, but when I come to the UK, really I didn't know what is my entitlement. And the first thing, when women are coming to the UK, first of all, they don't know what they are entitled to. They may be scared of police. They will be given lots of wrong information, especially by their husband and partners. They have no independency. Of course, being asylum seeker, then you have a long way to go to be able to settle in the country. If you are on a marriage visa, then again, it's another problem, taking few years to be independent or to settle in the UK. So there are lots of immigration, social, and other financial and other problems in the UK for them. And the language barrier is really one of the most difficult. Our organization, of course, we are providing different services for women. Our main focus are violence against women and helping women who are at risk of honor killing, forced marriage, child marriage, female genital mutilation, and domestic abuse. And when they are coming up to us, they are in a devastated situation. Especially imagine all this problem they have from financial, from immigration, from everything, then add to it domestic violence, low confidence or no even at all confidence, and they don't feel any light or any hopes in this country. They don't know even how to turn to their family to share their problems with them, because they can be at risk of honor killing or forced marriage, or they encourage them to stay with the husbands, the violence husband. And the issue, again, no recourse to public fund in the UK, it's another problem that many women are facing. They are not entitled to, for example, social fund or social care in the UK. So, I mean, all these problems adding up to the issues that they have. At ICRO, we have got an advice team that we are providing advice, helping them to come out of that situation. We have got counseling to empower them, to help them to find themselves and gain confidence again. We have put a refuge, which is a safe place for women only, and we are providing lots of different training about their rights in the UK, their human rights, about children's rights, about rights to education, about rights to income and work in the UK, and we are helping them to get their immigration status in the UK. We do lots of campaign for women's rights and human rights and changing the law in the UK, which all of them benefit all those women. But having refuge, which is part of our title for this panel, it has been a great help. Just imagine someone that has been isolated, nowhere to go, no money to have, and having a roof for a while until she is available or able to change her life and move back to a stronger place and finding jobs and education. This space is very important. Always funding for those places are really difficult, but we are hoping that the funders will be able, as they helped us during the last 7-8 years, to set up our first refuge for Middle Eastern women. Now we have got 3 refuges, and all the time our refuge is full. I am saying full, it's not good reason, good sign, because it means that so many women are in need of those refuges. Believe me, we had one room. We had 15 women bid for one room only. Just imagine, the need is so high. And we have got 3 refuge, all the time is full. But in the meantime, it's a light at the end of the tunnel for those who haven't got anywhere to go, no language to speak, no one to turn to talk about their problem. And thanks to our organization and advisors and counselors, they are all qualified people, and they help them really to become a strong woman that we have got now. Some of them are advisor in the organization or campaigner. They were now a survivor of violence, a survivor of very difficult and dark time. Now they are a fighter, and it is really great news that there are always